Oklahoma State shoots 56% in the opening 20 minutes, and they lead Iowa State 34-21, the first of 4 games today in the Phillips 66 Big 12 Championship. And we're pleased to have with us now one of the main men of Big 12 Showcase, Keith Fletcher. Keith, I want to talk a little bit about swimming and diving. I was there last week in Austin, Texas. The Texas women, very impressive, especially in the diving events.
Yeah, you were there 3 days. You still smell like chlorine. But I'll tell you what's going to happen. That's how TV works,
That's
right?
the way I normally smell, though.
There's 3 diving events, 13 swimming events, and 5 relay events. Texas won them all. A clean sweep by the Longhorns. We start with Murphy Bromberg as we look at some of the championship high performers and who we think is going to excel at the NCAAs. Bromberg repeated as platform champion. She also won the 3-meter springboard. She was second in the 1-meter springboard to her teammate, Emma Ivory Gagne, and doing the inward 3.5, just like a Thulin on the 4th of July weekend right there.
I tell you, those two should be able to win the NCAA. They were outstanding.
Well, Bromberg was 15th in the 3-meter last year. She's got some room for improvement, but helped Texas sweep their way to the championship. Now on into the pool, we go to Gretchen Jakes, a great name. Good name for a lead character in a murder mystery novel. Jakes was, this is the 50 free, the 100-yard dash of the pool. One breath, in, don't come up for air, back and forth, and she won the 50. She also won the 100 and the 200 breast. Her time in the 100, 58.71, is the 3rd best in the NCAA, only 0.3 of a second behind the leader, Patricia Burchell of Alabama. So Gretchen Jakes as well as Murphy Bromberg trying to lead the way for the Longhorns as we look at the NCAA championships ahead. They're going to Greensboro, North Carolina. Last year, Georgia won the national title, followed by Stanford. This year in the national standings, it's Cal, followed by Georgia. Texas is number 6 in the national standings. So, an outside chance, but, it could be for the Longhorns.
Absolutely, and congratulations to the Texas men, number 2 in the country. They have never lost a Big 12 title in swimming and diving. Thanks, Keith. We'll be catching with you the rest of the day. More halftime activities from Dallas, Texas, coming up after the break. Welcome back to American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas for the Phillips 66 Big 12 Women's Basketball Championship. At halftime, the Lady Bears of Baylor leading the Wildcats by 16, 43-27. Now, once again, he is the voice of Big 12 Showcase, Keith Fletcher. Keith, we talked about swimming and diving in the last game at halftime. Now we're going to talk about track and field because the indoors were held last week. NCAAs are upcoming, and it was a good meet again for Texas.
Right. Texas dominated the Big 12 meet, as they normally do. But the NCAA is around the corner, and several athletes from many schools could compete for national titles. We begin with Akilah Jones in the long jump, a K-State Wildcat. She is your NCAA leader at 21 feet, 9.5 inches, looking to keep the long jump title in the Big 12. Lorraine Ugan of TCU had won the last 2. She won the Big 12 easily last week and looks to compete well in the NCAAs. Caitlin Petrolos in the pole vault. This is a fascinating story. Last year, she won the NCAA championship and set the NCAA record at 15 feet 1 inch. This year, that record has already been topped by 2 different women. The record is up to 15 feet 7 inches. Caitlin Petrolos has a lot of work cut out for her if she's going to compete for another national title next weekend in Fayetteville. Moving on to the track, Courtney Colo, speaking of record holders, she is your NCAA record holder in the outdoor 400. Here she is winning the indoor 600. She came in 4th in the 400, and here's why. She ran this race 30 minutes before running the 400. She had to, for points. K-State was on Texas the entire weekend, and they needed that. But in the 400, she dominates. She has the 2nd fastest time in the 400 this year at 51.46. So the NCAA championships for swimming and diving are a couple of weeks away. Indoor track and field next weekend in Fayetteville at the Tyson Indoor Track Stadium. And Ron, another championship going on in progress right now at Iowa State, the Big 12 Wrestling Championships. We're going to stream that live. The finals are at 6 o'clock. We're going to stream it on Fox Sports Go, the app on your mobile device or your tablet. And great competition there. Oklahoma State is number 6 in the nation. Iowa State is number 8. Is there magic in Hilton for the wrestlers as well? We shall see.
I tell you, if you have never been to a Big 12 wrestling championship. I remember going back to the Big 8 days in Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma. Always incredible competition between the three schools.
Oklahoma State's won the last 2, 4 of the last 5, but Iowa State again at home. Can they compete? The third place and consolation finals are going on as we speak. The finals at 6 o'clock.
Hilton Magic maybe for the Cyclones. Thanks, Keith. We'll see you in a couple of hours. Halftime activity straight ahead. We'll have the highlights and all the numbers from the first 20 minutes of Baylor and Kansas State. And the Oklahoma Sooners at intermission with West Virginia, the number 7 seed, Oklahoma number 2 seed, OU leading it 34-20. As we welcome you back to the American Airlines Center, and joining us once again, as he has each and every halftime so far today, the voice of the Big 12 Showcase and the man that makes it the show that it is, Keith Fletcher.
I don't know. At least I'm not the face of Big 12 Showcase. People out there are thanking them for that.
Well, let's talk about gymnastics, because the Big 12 Conference has the number 1 gymnastics team in the country in the Oklahoma Sooners.
And a lot of Sooner fans watching, they know what happened last night, something fairly significant. Oklahoma, the defending national champion from last year, I should say, the defending co-champion. They tied with the Florida Gators in the NCAA Finals. Last night, they went head-to-head with Florida. Number 1, Oklahoma. Number 3, Florida. What we're seeing is video from earlier in the year. That is Haley Skaman with her 4th career perfect 10. It came on vault last night against Florida. She had a perfect 10 in the floor exercise. Also last night, Erica Brewer with a perfect 10 on the beam. Just the 3rd perfect 10 on beam in school history. This is Brenna Dowell, a freshman who had a perfect 10 on the bars earlier this year. Perfect 10s being thrown up all over the place. Oklahoma is the number 1 ranked team statistically in 3 of the 4 events, all but vault. That's how dominant they are. They mopped the floor with Florida last night, scoring a 198.5, the 6th highest team score in NCAA history. And that's significant as we work our way towards the Big 12 championships coming up in a couple of weeks. You, Ron, you'll be there, and they'll be in Norman as we look ahead and hear more of Haley. And that's in a recent event at the Fort Worth Convention Center. That's where the NCAA championships are going to be. But it should be a great event at the Noble Center, the Big 12 championships, the 3-time defending champs Oklahoma. And almost like Texas in swimming and diving. It's not going to be much of a competition team-wise, but how perfect can Oklahoma be?
And, of course, Oklahoma's got an incredible tradition as far as gymnastics is concerned. You talk about Paul Zert, former coach. His prized pupil was a guy by the name of Bart Connor. And I think they've done quite well.
They have. And also Oklahoma fans know quite well. Another big story coming out of Oklahoma. Lauren Chamberlain from softball. Already today, she's hit 2 home runs. She is chasing the all-time home run record of Stacy Nuveman, the 2-time Olympian from her days earlier at UCLA. 2 home runs today against Samford and Missouri State. Just 9 away from becoming the all-time home run queen in NCAA softball history, a significant record. And also, Ron, more championship talk. 1 championship already in progress. The Big 12 Wrestling Championships up at Iowa State. 2-time defending champion is Oklahoma State. And these were the standings heading into the finals. What we can tell you is, the update is they are in the 149-pound class. A little while ago at 141, Dan Heel of Oklahoma State pinned Iowa State's Dante Rodriguez. Oklahoma State leading by 8, heading to 149 pounds. And what a battle, because Oklahoma State came in ranked number 6 in the nation.
Right.
Iowa State number 8. They're in Hilton Coliseum in Ames. And what a battle it's turning out to be.
Well, we always talk about the Hilton Magic. Maybe there'll be some Hilton Magic for the Cyclones in wrestling. Keith, good seeing you, buddy. We'll see you at halftime next game. We'll step aside. Coming up, we'll break down the pictures. They will be in color this time. And we'll also have numbers from the first 20 minutes. Stay with us. 38-24 is our halftime score. Right now, Texas with their biggest lead of the game over TCU. And throughout today, we've been previewing a lot of different sports, along with Keith Fletcher, who is obviously heads up the Big 12 Showcase. Outstanding show, giving you all the news about the Big 12. Let's talk men's basketball, because today the regular season wrapped up.
Right. Kansas had already wrapped up at least a share of its 11th consecutive Big 12 championship, which is a phenomenal feat in itself. Today they got beat, as many of you have heard, got beat by Oklahoma. That's not so much a big deal as it amounts to the seeding for the Big 12 tournament. In fact, Kansas was playing without Perry Ellis, who tweaked his knee earlier against West Virginia. Cliff Alexander was still out. A little investigation by the NCAA, and even Green was out. He was suspended by Coach Bill Self before the game. So, you know, it doesn't affect the seedings of the Big 12 tournament so much, but the chance to knock off Kansas, or at least have a share of that title, was spoiled last Monday when West Virginia had Kansas on the ropes. We knew Kansas had a share of the title. West Virginia blew a 20-point lead, forced overtime, and then Jamari Traylor there with a jam there. He got an and one out of that, and that's pretty much all she wrote out of that. And Kansas has become tradition, brings out all 10 trophies the previous year, add on to the 11. That's become a new tradition now to add all the trophies together, cutting down the nets, and that brings this. The tournament for next week at the Sprint Center in Kansas City. There you see the 2, 3, and 4 seeds, Baylor, Oklahoma, and Iowa State. That's all dependent upon what happens in the final regular season game, Iowa State and TCU. Iowa State currently leading 83-71 with about 2 minutes left in that game. So if Iowa State holds on, they hang on to that 2 seed. Oklahoma would then be the 3 seed, and Baylor the 4 seed. What's important to note here, the first round games, TCU, K-State, and Texas Tech. Texas and Oklahoma State, by getting the 5 seed, Texas is still considered a bubble team.
Right.
And so by getting a first round win, that'd be huge. And then, you know, getting that win or lose, the quarterfinal game, getting one more win would be big for that resume for the tournament.
It's been an interesting year, needless to say, for Rick Barnes and the Texas Longhorns. How about wrestling? Because we've been talking about it all day, going on right now in Ames, Iowa. It's quite a battle we've been talking about. Is there any Hilton magic going on for Iowa State?
Iowa State had a 2-point lead going into the finals, and then Oklahoma State went 7-0 in the finals, including 4-0 and head-to-heads against Iowa State. So Oklahoma State wins its 49th conference championship in wrestling, going back to the Ed Gallagher days of 1917. Oklahoma State, a phenomenal story, and the NCAA's right around the corner, and wrapping up the season for wrestling, but the attention now turns back to basketball and the men's tournament in Kansas City next weekend.
I'll tell you, there's a lot going on. Congratulations on the Big 12 Showcase, because it is a great show. Encompasses everything about the Big 12, every sport you can possibly imagine. Got to be fun to do.
And I can't believe there's some we left out today.
there's still a lot. Well, we can do that maybe coming up. How about that?
Yeah, we'll talk about it after the game, right?
There you go. All right, Keith. Good seeing you, my friend. We're going to take a break. We're at halftime inside the American Airlines Center. He's nodding because he likes the game. Texas leads by 14.